In this episode, we provide an overview of the World Health Organization's report on the global tobacco epidemic 2021. We speak with Dr. Colin Mendelsohn about the looming restrictions to come into effect in Australia on the 1st of October and provide updates on what is happening in Malaysia, Mexico, and New Zealand. Lastly, we announce the launch of a new global advocacy initiative. On July 27th, the World Health Organization released its report on the global tobacco epidemic 2021. Let's review.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone on the line.
The introduction to the live launch of the report sets the tone of what is to follow.
So on behalf of the World Health Organization, supported by Bloomberg Philanthropies, I'm really proud to welcome you all to the global launch of the WHO report on the global tobacco epidemic 2021.
The opening statement made by WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus fully exposed the extent that he is willing to go to please his main private donor.
Newer products like e-cigarettes pose a new danger, marketed with flavors to appeal to children and adolescents. These products should be regulated to protect public health. WHO is committed to working with you for a tobacco-free world.
And then, as if that wasn't enough, their ambassador for tobacco control takes to the podium to pontificate his agenda.
Hello, everyone, and congratulations to the WHO on the new Empower report. Bloomberg Philanthropies has worked closely with the WHO to fight tobacco since 2008, and we've seen extraordinary progress. But at the same time, new products like flavored e-cigarettes pose major threats, especially to young people. Tobacco companies are promoting them as safe alternatives to cigarettes and other tobacco products. It's another dangerous chapter in the industry's history of deception. If we don't act, another generation of kids could get addicted to nicotine, and we can't let that happen. Some countries are already taking action, and by highlighting their efforts, this report will help others join them.
Dr. Adriana Blanco Marquizo, the head of the Secretariat for the WHO FCTC, then proceeded with her thoughts, which were a regurgitation of the Bloomberg narrative based on their version of science.
As this most recent report shows, new challenges lie ahead. Electronic nicotine delivery systems, also known as e-cigarettes, and novel tobacco products are promoted as healthier alternatives to smoking by their manufacturers, and for many of these products it's the same tobacco industry that is producing them, and by their supporters. But until independent research shows the real risk profile of these products, governments should be cautious. Science-based evidence, not marketing, should guide their action.
The remainder of the time was taken up with an explanation of the research, a bunch of flashy graphics and promotional videos. Then they pulled out the heavy artillery, the children.
We encourage young people to work with CSO or WHO to send the message to the government to strengthen the tobacco control policy, such as the ban of e-cigarette.
They're very sleek, they're modern, and they're very new age products, which in no way look like they're dangerous at all.
It's very, very important for us to get the right education. Like in 2018, 63% of Juul users didn't know that there was actually nicotine in them.
Flabbergasted by the sheer stupidity, the tobacco harm reduction experts weighed in on the contents of the report. John Britton, the Emeritus Professor of Epidemiology at the University of Nottingham, said, "This report demonstrates that, sadly, the WHO still does not understand the fundamental difference between addiction to tobacco smoking, which kills millions of people every year, and addiction to nicotine, which doesn't. The WHO is also evidently still content with the hypocrisy of adopting a position which recommends the use of medicinal nicotine products to treat addiction to smoking, but advocates prohibition of consumer nicotine products which do the same thing, but better. Cliff Douglas, former vice president of tobacco control for the American Cancer Society, said, "Disturbingly, WHO continues to ramp up its efforts to destroy the one version of harm reduction whose potential far surpasses that of all others to reduce illness and save lives globally. WHO continues to take a short-sighted, unscientific approach that appears to dismiss the legitimate concerns of millions of adult smokers across the globe who have been unable to quit smoking by any other means." The report recommends that member countries should treat e-cigarettes the same as smoking, with high taxation, bans, and restrictions to sales outlets and access on the consumer market. Indeed, the WHO report on the Global Tobacco Epidemic 2021 glorifies countries with bans as poster children of effective tobacco control, like India, where they have denied millions of smokers a safer alternative. Now to Australia, where vapers may be forced to the black market, or worse, to combustible tobacco. As many know, on the 1st of October, it will be illegal for anyone to import nicotine for personal use without a prescription from a medical doctor. From the 1st of October, the penalty for importing nicotine e-liquid without a prescription will be up to $222,000 Australian dollars. However, since this proposed regulation was passed, there is a new pro-vaping Deputy Prime Minister, Barnaby Joyce.
I've listened to the people who've actually had to deal with being on the bungers. They're the ones who know how to get off them. And all the comments I get is, mate, look, we're not saying nicotine's good for you. No one's that dopey. We all know nicotine in any form is bad for you. But if I've got a choice between, lighting the grass and sticking it in my mouth or vaping, I'm going to go with vaping every time because that's the one that helps them break the habit.
Will the new Deputy Prime Minister be able to sway the current government's anti-e-cig stance? Or will Australian vapers be forced to the black market, or worse, back to combustible tobacco? We speak with Dr. Colin Mendelsohn about the impact of the regulation on vapers and smokers, as well as any influence the new Deputy Prime Minister may have on the regulations. How will the regulations affect vapers in Australia on October 1st?
The main thing that's going to change from the 1st of October is the new penalty of $220,000 for bringing nicotine into Australia without a prescription. So vapers will need to go to a doctor, get a prescription, send it to the overseas vendor and have it returned with their order. One of the problems is being able to actually get a prescription. Very few doctors are willing to prescribe nicotine. They've been constantly told by the health authorities and the AMA that this is not a good treatment for smoking, and they don't know much about it, and they're rather negative about it. So I'm sure some vapers will go back to smoking. This is all going to be too hard. And it'll certainly prevent some smokers taking up vaping. But many vapers are stocking up their freezers with nicotine in advance, and that in itself is a problem. But I think it's going to be a big problem for a lot of people.
How do you think these regulations are going to affect the smoking rates in Australia?
I think after the 1st of October, some vapers will go back to smoking because it'll just be all too hard to go through this process and to access a nicotine prescription. It's certainly going to be harder for smokers to make the switch to vaping. It's already difficult in Australia, and I think many will decide this is just not going to be possible for them. And I think the decline in smoking rates will go down. We already have a fairly slow decline in smoking. So I think what's coming up in Australia will slow that even further. We haven't reached our national targets for some years, and I think this will make it even harder for us to achieve that goal.
Do you feel that the new Deputy Prime Minister may be able to influence the current government's e-cigarette stance?
Look, I don't think we can turn back the regulations at this stage. They're pretty much locked in. What I am concerned about is that on the back of this regulation, there will be further restrictions. I mean, we're seeing that in Canada. They're now, having approved vaping, they're now looking at ways to restrict flavours and reduce nicotine content, and I think that is a potential disaster. But Barnaby Joyce, our Deputy Prime Minister, is a smoker. His partner, Vicky Campion, is actually a vapor, and Barnaby's come out in public and been quite open about supporting vaping, so he's certainly an ally. I think the most important thing vapors can do is to contact their members of parliament and tell them their story. And another thing the vapors need to do is to make lots of noise in marginal electorates, because again, that influences the political process and decision making even more, I think.
And now for updates on the situations in Malaysia, Mexico, and New Zealand. Dr. Stephen Chow, the president of the Addiction Medical Association of Malaysia, at their conference called for more intense public and professional engagement to examine the issue of tobacco harm reduction. With long-term research, tobacco harm reduction can be a pragmatic approach to reducing the harm of smoking-related diseases. Currently, there are over 4.9 million Malaysians who smoke, and it is estimated that more than 27,000 Malaysians die each year from smoking. We had previously reported on the situation in Mexico, where organizations such as Pro Vapeo Mexico have been fighting for the right to vape. In July 2021, the Mexican Supreme Court exempted heated tobacco products from the February 2020 presidential decree that banned importation of electronic nicotine delivery systems. Unfortunately, vapes that use e-liquids continue to be banned by the Mexican government. New Zealand released the final of the Smoke-Free Environments Act regulations on the 10th of August. Whilst they are less restrictive than was feared, there are parts that require clarification, such as the requirement of a serial number to be on equipment, not the packaging of non-disposable devices. We will have more information the next time. In collaboration with global advocacy organizations worldwide, we announced the launch of the Right to Vape Testimonial database.
I live in Northport, Alabama. I'm 41 years old. I smoked for 23 years. I quit smoking using vapor products. I vape now for 8 years.
I quit smoking using vapor products. I have been smoke-free for almost 3 years now.
I'm happy to say I'm an ex-smoker for 12 years. I use flavored vapor products. Caramel, bourbon, custard.
I smoked cigarettes for 25 years. I quit using vaping and have been vaping for 6 years.
This website provides consumers the avenue to leave their stories of how they switched and their thoughts on the current prohibitionist climate around safer nicotine products. As mentioned by Clive Bates, we are the evidence.
I tried to quit numerous times, doing everything from hypnosis to patches to Nicorette gum. None of them would succeed.
We need to get louder. We need to encourage and support one another and educate the public about who we are and why we're doing what we do. We are the evidence, and we need policymakers to listen and understand that. Thank you for your help and support, and let's keep this going. We are stronger together. When the Right to Switch petition campaign was launched, it was hoped that we would be able to reach 10,000 signatures minimum in time for the COP9. To date, the petition has reached that goal and continues to grow. Thanks to a call to action from CASA of its members in the United States, ANASVAP in Spain and Latin America, and ETHRA in Europe, We are now hopeful that we will be able to gather at least 20,000 signatures, if not more. Oops. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We do have a panel discussion tonight to talk about the effects of the WHO Global Tobacco Epidemic Report. And I'm going to add everyone now. So if you will, first, I will add Mr. Samsul Arifin from Move Malaysia. Hi, Sam.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. I will add Peter Paul DeTore from the Vapers Philippines. Hi, Peter.
Hello.
And lastly, but not least, Asa Salagupta from ECST in Thailand. Hi, Ace. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining. Ace, we can't hear you. There he is. Yeah.
Hello, hi.
Okay, I'd like to start the conversation off with briefly, if you could each just tell me how this report is going to affect your advocacy in country. And I'd like to start with Sam, if I can.
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, let me just share this that I've been a smoker for 20 years and I have not been smoking even a single stick of cigarette for 7 years now. And why is that? Because I've been a vapor. So that's the first thing that I want to make clear. And as to your question, how will this report affect us? As we know, WHO don't really set any sort of law that is can be imposed on my country. But the thing is that the health officials are always on the alert, and they are always looking at WHO to follow the directions of WHO. So the release of the new report by the WHO can greatly impact our movement here to get the vape to be regulated. Yeah, to a very great extent. Let me just put forward an illustration of point here. Just 2 days ago, there was 50 numbers of NGOs that has made a statement that they are hell bent on against vape. 50 of them. So what does that say? That says that they are organized and they are funded. Bloomberg. All right. So. We know as what's happening in WHO, they are also funded by this philanthropy body from America, which is Bloomberg, and the same thing that is happening here in Malaysia as well. So it is going to be a challenge. It's compounded by the fact that we are under a lockdown now, and the epidemic is really, really bad, especially. I think Malaysia is looking at the worst numbers of positive cases on a daily basis in this region. So to answer you, yeah, it's going to affect us greatly, but we have plans. We are quite clear on what we're going to do about this.
Okay, thanks for that, Sam. Asa, I go to you.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, let me start off for those who don't know me well. I've been saying I'll top Sam with I've been a smoker for probably 38 years. And
Wow.
I quit. Yeah, I quit smoking about probably about the same time, about 8 years ago. But I started vaping with like 10 years. But I didn't really intended to quit smoking. Once I got introduced really to electronic cigarette, to vaping, then that's the last time I smoked. It really helped me quit. And to the question that the statement from WHO, even let me say this, even without statements, we have many organizations from the same root, of course, digging out, if possible, or twisting the words. And now, with this kind of wordings coming directly from the WHO itself, these organizations will come and start bombarding the vaping circles. I don't, we have been blamed. We have been called tobacco industry, which of course we were not. Even we are just small advocates. Not even organization, a group. ECST is just a group, consumer group who we value our health. It had been proven by us, by myself, by my friends, and we have over 10 million smokers, and death rate is about 70 something thousand per year, from smoking related illnesses. And so we are pretty much double Malaysia from that point of view. But I'm pretty sure that Philippines will have a much larger number than that, since the populations, we a lot more populations. But yeah, it will hurt us really, really bad. And it's so funny that World Health Organization come out and admitted that they are like outright supporting Bloomberg, and saying we are supported, but it's outside influence. I don't think that should happen from the beginning of the WHO. I don't know what kind of twisted, sick-minded people are doing the advocacy, and we've seen lately that they fail. I just want to say
Yeah.
they really they need to do a lot more.
Yeah, no, I agree, Asa, absolutely. And last but not least, Mr. Peter Pulpit Detour from the Philippines. Floor is
Hi,
yours.
Nancy.
Peter.
Well, basically, I think the fear mongering of WHO will definitely have an effect on our government officials' perception with respect to vaping. Um, I would agree with what Sam said earlier. They don't have any regulatory effect here in my country, in the Philippines. However, whatever sort of opinions or statements that the WHO comes up with, a lot of people in government puts a lot of weight into it. So personally, my fear is that it's a very crucial time here in the Philippines because we are in the process of regulating ends. And I think it would definitely sway certain politicians to a certain position. And same thing here also, like what Sam said earlier, a couple of groups already organized and started sending position papers to certain politicians. So there, I don't know what's driving them, or what's pushing them to do that, but definitely there's a concerted effort around it. My fear really is that over regulation of vaping products here in my country could lead to vapors who have switched from smoking to going back to their old days. And I think it's very important what we're doing now because I think we all agree that we would like to stop it from happening. And we, s- our group here still pushes that our officials should still regulate vaping fairly and risk proportionately. So I'm just hoping that whatever our organization is doing and the support that we're getting from you guys could actually balance the effect of this WHO report.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping, we're working together as a team. I want to bring something up. When I was talking to Colin, and he was saying about how vapors need to contact their elected representatives and they need to, get loud and they need to. I know that in the Philippines, Peter, you especially, no disrespect to the other two, just I'm focusing on Peter here because he was last and now he's first. I know that you guys, you really did do the hard yards with that. So maybe could you, for other people that are out there, explain your process and how you went about to get to the point where the Philippines is at now in terms of rallying the troops?
Oh, well, uh, from an organizational standpoint, it's just really a group of friends, and then um, we just like the stories that Sam and Asa shared earlier. A couple of us have been smoking for 10, 15 years, switched to vaping, and then the organization just went organic. a couple of vape shop owners, couple of friends, and we became bigger. And it just so happened that some of us are into, law and all that stuff. So we started engaging the certain politicians. We've attended um, plenary sessions with the Congress, Senate. We've sat down also with the Department of Health, and it's been an uphill battle since I've started this. Um, I think since 2015 until this day, it's there's just a lot of talks, there's a lot of position papers, and it's frustrating because these are the same. I can still remember the exact topic that we had with respect to the age back in 2015, and it's now 2021, and it's still the same topic that we're lobbying against the other side, if I could say. So there, we've had some congressmen approve a risk proportionate bill from their level, and right now legislation is at the level of our senators. It just so happened that it's not moving as fast as we wanted because of the pandemic. We're still hoping that that gets out within the hopefully by September, and it gets approved before we have our elections next year.
Okay, so basically you guys are on track. It's slow because of COVID, and you're just hoping that the Senate will. How do you feel? I mean, gut feeling. How do you feel the Senate's going to go with this?
That's a tough one. I think we can get it passed. But again, I just don't know how this WHO report would impact the stance of certain, I should say there are certain senators who are in the gray, I should say, and the impact of how these NGOs will have with respect to the letters that they've been sending out, and that's why from my end, at least the Vapors PH, we're trying to share as much information as we have through the channels that we have, to the petitions that you've sent out earlier.
Yeah.
That's really the best we can do at this time.
Yeah, no, I mean, do you think, sorry, I'm not avoiding the other two. I just want to bring this one up. Do you think that what's happening in New Zealand is going to help you, Peter?
I'll be honest, I really don't know, because the way our government will react, they're not so much based on what's been happening in the last few years. Our government right now, it's not really particular on the best practices of other countries. I mean, I know you've read the news and what's happening here in the Philippines. So not really much of, hey, they did this in this country. So the current leadership is not persuaded by certain successes of other countries.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just wondering. Asa, I'm going to come back to you for a minute. You're in a unique situation because, obviously it's been broadcast everywhere about what goes on in Thailand if you get caught vaping. How are you going to be able to address this report in that environment? You're muted. Asa, you're muted.
Trying to be polite and forgetful at the same time. In what in the environment that you mean in general, that a lot of people still get caught, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually, one of the few things we are trying to do, and we had been doing regularly, is on every Saturday evening, 9 p.m. Thailand time, we have a live cast from our Facebook, which could ECST translate roughly into what is electronic cigarette บุหรี่ไฟฟ้าคืออะไร and so it's in cigarette smoking Thailand it's the same thing anyway so we had been trying and still are trying and will keep on trying to promote the translation the correct translation of the law because the law had been twisted and the people that got caught they got caught because of possessions you said people had been fined and even jailed sent to jail for maybe overnights a few nights up to I don't know more than a week just for possessions of electronic cigarette and in the end there hasn't been yet a court case going out saying that possession is not illegal. There are a few court cases where the person had to pay the fine because they signed confession saying that they own illegal items and they just paid not a lot a few hundred bahts even like 500 bahts or something like that but $10-15 around that approximate around that area and but the bribe money was up to 100,000 baht 200,000 but the 200,000 baht fine was for the people who import illegally so it's a different kind of law really because but to go back to your question is that we are still trying but it's going to be tougher because the law enforcers will come and say see even the WHO will say it's bad so yeah serve you right you shouldn't have it you shouldn't use it you should not have it you should have it on you you should not have it on your possessions so like there'll be I don't know it's gonna be even more confusing but still the laws here in Thailand still remains you cannot import you cannot distribute and you cannot manufacture and of course you cannot vape in a no smoking zone so possessions and the act of vaping itself is not illegal but it's in the void plus
All right,
electronic
question.
cigarette had been plus electronic cigarette had been classified as tobacco product
Okay, so what is your estimate of the number of people who are influencing the Thai government negatively, and where is their funding coming from? Is it the same situation that transpired in the Philippines with Bloomberg Philanthropies and NGOs?
I cannot really say that it's definitely from Bloomberg. We still haven't found it yet. The money are from syntax mainly that are open not open you can't even review it but they said the source that they open to the public they said well the money are from syntax so it's really weird the syntax are from the sales of cigarettes and liquor and
Yeah,
that tax
same
go
here.
into the hand of the people to get people to quit smoking and quit drinking especially people who get smoking. So if people stop smoking, they will sell less cigarette, and then they will get less income, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that brings up an interesting question, and I want to ask this one of Samsul. Sam, I know that Indonesia got hit with a really high vape tax, and I'm wondering, and this is something that's been pondering in my head, a lot of these countries don't want to allow e-cigarettes or nicotine e-liquid, right? Because some say, oh, they're depending on the syntax, like Asa was saying. But what about, and this is, I want your opinion on this, what about going to the government and saying, okay, you know what, you can tax this as long as you make it legal? Would that be some way of actually being able to get this available in those countries where it's banned?
Okay, so firstly, let me explain the status that we are in right now. Malaysia is now we allow nicotine, e-liquid products without nicotine. This is where we are at right now. But we do have a problem with that. I have a problem with that because zero nic products it's not something that's gonna help us to quit smoking. And so now the status that we are in right now is that we have been working very hard to get the vape products to be regulated, to be risk proportionate regulated. And we have been approaching the members of parliament, and about a year ago, we went to the parliament, and we know that most of the members of parliament are actually smokers. And we went to the parliament lobby, and we brought a whole box of disposable vape products, and we just shove it to them and let them try. And they got on board, right? So the idea that we have been pushing forward, that we are the evidence. Here in Malaysia, we push that one step further, where we want to make the elected representative as the evidence. Let them get on board, to the point that where there was once when the members of parliament were sitting in the parliament, one of the ministers, he's not just a member of parliament, he is the foreign minister. He was actually, maybe without realizing, he was vaping in parliament. So yeah, he was fined for that anyway. But this is good and bad. We can see that they are getting on board. They are getting on board, and now we are at the point where I was informed that these are very credible sources, that the ministers have already approved for Malaysia to regulate nicotine vape products, and after that they are just going to hand it over to the Minister of Health for the MOH to set the guidelines. So again, coming back to your question, we've been working with the authorities in related to health, the Ministry of Health and other government agencies, and we've been, hitting the wall. So we are taking a different approach. This is very relevant to your question. We are now taking the approach of, instead of meeting up with the health relevant agencies, we are now planning to meet up with the Ministry of Finance. All right, because we know that the Ministry of Finance can actually make decisions that can trump or override the decisions made by the Ministry of Health. And now looking at the feedback that I have been getting, they are going to park vape products under the same tobacco regulations. Well, that's not a good thing, but at least we are moving towards a positive direction. So they are going to put the vape products under tobacco regulations. It's called the Poison Act. So now vape products are going to be taxed in the same way as tobacco products are going to be taxed. Now, we are going to talk to our elected representative and says that this is not the right thing to do. All right, you can tax vape products, but it must be risk proportionate approach. You must take a risk proportionate approach. You must have it in the framework that you are actually helping people to quit smoking by the tax implementation. So if you tax tobacco products higher than the tax that you are imposing on vape products, that will then help people to actually quit smoking and move them towards vaping. So we are trying to talk to the policymakers to make them see this point. Use the regulatory framework to get people to switch, from high risk tobacco products to a much more lower risk vape products. So this is what we are doing now. We are planning to do now. As you were saying, that our movement now is actually being curbed by the heat of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now in Malaysia, we are not just challenged by the pandemic; we are also challenged by the political instability. You guys might not know this, but the rumor has been rife that the Prime Minister is going to resign tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. So with the resignation of the Prime Minister, the whole cabinet ministers are going to be dissolved as well. So now this is the concern here. We do not want to see where there is a new lineup of cabinet ministers and a new prime minister and the whole direction of policy when it comes to regulation of vape products. We do not want it to change, but we don't know at this point. We just don't know. If we want to work out plans on meeting up with the elected representative, the time is not the right time right now, because by tomorrow in 24 hours the whole cabinet ministers lineup might change. But this is something that is really happening right now, because normally the prime minister would meet up with the king on every Wednesday to report on what's going on in the country, but he is going to see the king tomorrow on Monday, which is out of the norm, out of the practice. So we know something is up, and it's been widely reported, on all news medium that he is going to resign. Now with that, those ministers that we have been, the elected representative that we've been working with, we've been working closely with, if they are going to be changed, then we might have to do the whole thing again. So
yeah, you
this
have to
is
start all over again.
That's right.
It's kind of like what we went through in New Zealand. We started with one government, transferred, and now, and then even though we kept the prime minister, the cabinet ministers changed. And that kind of brings me to my next point. And my next point is, I don't know how the situation is in each of your countries, but I know in New Zealand and in Australia as well, that a lot of people, they don't, that they'll go on social media and they'll have a moan and they'll complain about this and they'll complain about that. But when it comes to activating and actually doing something proactive, what is your suggestion to those people that maybe, they vape, they thought, I don't want to get involved in advocacy, it's too much work, I don't want to talk about give me your thoughts on that. I want to start with Asa on that, because he's stuck in the really dark ages right now. Asa?
Yeah, I actually, it's really frustrating. I have been saying it. I have been trying to get people to say, like, you got to do something. You got to speak out for your right, and this is the right to the health of yourself and to the people around you. So I said, like, I don't get it. You shout out and on social media, but when we want to do something, we want you to sign petitions. Uh, of course, there are quite a few people who are afraid, and they had asked me personally, say, like, if I sign this, will I get arrested? I'm going like, no. I mean, like, if you have to sign something up, like send papers, documents, proof of yourself as a Thai citizen, something like that, and said, they still have no right. They cannot come into your house and arrest you just for speaking out your mind, and this is still it's still a democracy, it's still a free country. And one thing I would like to speak out, and not just for Thai people, but for everyone who got a chance to listen to us. And if we want something, don't expect other people to do it for you. Why not just, this is so simple, just sign petitions, just go in, log into your email, and go into Kafras and Voices for Vape. We will, you will have the link hopefully will be somewhere under
It
here.
is. It's there. They're running
Yeah,
underneath on the
down here.
bottom.
Yeah,
There.
down here.
There.
Yep, down here. There, www.right2web.org. That's right. Uh,
Yeah.
and just that is doing your part. Think of, like, if I don't do it, if I think the same way as you do, say, like, oh, just one voice doesn't make a difference. If Sam is thinking the same, Peter things like, oh, no, it's none of my business, I got a lot of legal stuff to do, I'm not going to attend the any party, I'm not going to go to see all the government officials. And Nancy said, hey, I'm very happy with my life right now, New Zealand. just leave the ban and everything. So I'm just gonna kick back, then think of what would happen. So we need to stick together, and just simple thing as signing the petition would help. And if we ask you, if possible, to come out in person, no one's gonna arrest you. So please come out. And I'm still fine. If Fasa is here, he would say that I'm so glad and surprised you're out of jail. You're not in jail yet, but
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm still
and and that,
I'm still fine. Yeah.
yeah, you're still good. I mean, and that's why we do that. That's why we have the petition, and that's why we have the testimonial, because we've got to humanize this. Because I think a lot of these people are sitting up in their offices, wherever they are, okay, and they see statistics and they see numbers, and then they only see this information that's coming in from, I want to call him Voldemort, and I shouldn't, but I mean, he actually gives me that Voldemort vibe, right? But
Yeah.
these people that trying to tell us what was best for us, and really in reality it has absolutely nothing to do with our health. It has everything to do with maintaining their relevance, and that's the way you fight against that. It kind of reminds me a lot of something that I saw the other day. It was a woman talking about Austria and how Austria thought Hitler was the great savior because they were in such dire straits in Austria. And he gave free education, and he did all, and we all know how that turned out, right? And it's kind of so I was like, well, this sounds really familiar, Peter, what's your take on that question about getting people engaged and getting people involved?
Just to borrow what Asa said, I just remembered one quote that a dead friend of mine told me before. He posed this question: if not us, who will? If not now, when? So all I'm saying is, I understand that there's a lot of apprehension across the board from all different countries, but we're reaching out. We have a petition here. If you feel that vaping has helped you, go send your testimonial in the link that's right there, what Nancy and Asa was talking about earlier. As Asa was saying, I just remembered that quote, and to me that's very powerful. That if you want something, we gotta go get it, and we gotta do it now.
Yeah, I mean, what if not now, when? Exactly. We're all here, and we've got the CAFRA page, and people, if they want a question, they just post a question and I'll answer, or somebody will answer, and that's the other thing too, is that I think we all need to, we're good in Asia Pacific for the most part. We all work together, but we all have to work, all the regions have to work together, because sometimes, and Peter, this because you and I've had this discussion, is, something that's going on in Latin America is something that the Philippines went through 2 years ago. Talk to somebody, because remember when I started this way back when, and when Peter too, there wasn't any of this that we have now. So we're kind of blessed in a way because we do have other people we can talk to. One of the benefits of lockdown is you can always get a hold of somebody, because we're all around. But, and that's going to be the key is we are people. We need to work together and do this together as people, because otherwise these people in their ivory towers, they just see statistics, numbers, and money. And, I'm not for sale. I don't think you're for sale. I don't think Sam's for sale. I don't think Ace is for sale. We're not for sale. So that's the way we've got to go about it, Sam, do you have any final questions or thoughts you'd like to bring up?
Coming back to what your question was earlier on, I would just like to share that MOVE started off with a petition 7 years ago when the Minister of Health announced that they're going to just have a blanket ban on vape products. So I just got a group of friends to launch a petition, and fortunately we got a lot of response. We managed to garner about 60,000 support on an online petition, and we managed to overturn the decision that was made by the Ministry of Health. Unfortunately, Nancy, even though at that point we were really we managed to engage our supporters. We have about 50,000 members on our Facebook page. We engaged them, but over the years, after 6 to 7 years, they are all quite tired and they are no longer interested to participate. So this is where we are at. Now, early on, the first petition that we ran, we had about 60,000 support. And the recent petition that we ran, because we were against the zero NIC taxation, we got about 12,000 support. So this is the situation. But I keep reminding them, what we do here is important. Your contribution, your participation is important because we are saving lives. That's why it's important, and that's why you need to support us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, they look at it and they get involved in it originally because it's about them. You know, I want what I want for me. And then the ones that, you know, and people get complacent because they get something, you know, okay, now we can get access to this. Oh, I don't need to fight it anymore. But the reality is, and I had this discussion with Leanna from Las Vegas, the reality is this isn't about me. This isn't about any one of us as individuals. This is about going forward. And I think a lot of people don't see that. It's, you know, what we do now will affect people 5-10 years down the road, and that you got to think the long game. And people do get tired. I do, you know, yes. I mean, I get tired. You get tired. I know we all get tired. But when you realize that it's not about us, it's about everybody else and all these lives, that kind of tweaks and it's interesting because we look at it that way, and you would think that the people in public health would look at it that way because, I mean, health of the public. No, you know, and that's the most frustrating part of all of this. Asa, you're smiling. Go ahead, speak, Asa. I can see it.
No, yeah, you. I was smiling because of when you mentioned here we call it Ministry of Public Health. You know, you're right. I was smiling. I was actually laughing because, you know, they really should be concerning about the health of the public, which I don't know. They're not. They're not. I don't know. They should change the name to something else.
We're not going there right now. We're going to keep this family friendly. No profane language.
I'm going to say it like that.
Yeah, but I know what you're thinking. It's okay. Peter, what would you like to say on that topic?
Well, I think that empowering the people who have benefited from those that have made the switch to vape has definitely have effect towards our cause. But I think it's just very difficult right now with these with the different reports coming out here and there. To me, it just brings us back, and I do understand that this is a long play, that there's a long ways that we have to do here as a group. I think we just have to lock down as a group really and identify what else we can start doing, because the other group is definitely well organized, funded, at least from the Philippine perspective, as they have already admitted. But we just gotta keep on reaching out to people, sharing what they can, and hopefully we encourage one life a day, and they just need to start changing lives one day at a time.
Yeah, one life at a time. Absolutely. Guys, thank you for joining me tonight. Much obliged. Appreciate it. You stay safe, please. Okay, and I will see you all soon. Thank you, everybody out there watching us.
Thank you, Nancy. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
สวัสดีครับ